Well, gang, Carolina Jackpot time coming at you on Friday evening. Want to do some picks against the spread for the week number 10 college football slate. This will be games for tomorrow. There are a few games going on tonight. You got Boise State, San Diego State, Georgia State versus UConn. Then we got one other one. Can't remember who. Doesn't matter. Anyway, wanted to talk tomorrow's games, and this is just in no particular order at all, just some things and notes I kind of jotted down. Auburn is laying 7.5 at home against Vanderbilt, total 48.5 in this ball game. Vanderbilt is a huge public underdog in this game. I think about 86% of the public money to date has come in on Vandy. And they have been a covering machine this year, no doubt. But there's a reason why this line is where it's at, with Auburn a minus 7.5. Auburn's sitting here at 3-5. Really a lot better team than that record indicates. Auburn should have won their game against Oklahoma earlier in the season. And they kind of put stuff together last week against Kentucky on the road, and kind of surprisingly blew them out after falling behind 10-0 early on in that game. And if you look at Auburn's stats and just where they rank nationally, both offensively and defensively, you wouldn't think that it belongs to a 3-5 football program. Also, Hugh Freeze has already basically lost to this team one time last year, right, in embarrassing fashion. Well, he lost to this quarterback, he lost to several of those other players, and he lost to a lot of that coaching staff. You don't think he's got this game circled? I'm not saying that by any means right now that Hugh Freeze is some elite level coach, but I do think that he's going to have Auburn up. They're going to be ready to play this game. And I think they go out and get another win, and I actually think they cover the 7.5 point number against San Diego, Pavia, and Vanderbilt on Saturday afternoon. Old Dominion catching 3 on the road at App State. Look, this is not a good Appalachian State team. I actually did get a win last week against Georgia State. Also, not a real good team. Old Dominion is sitting here at 4-4. They're fighting towards bowl eligibility. I think they'll get there. I think they can get the win here. Let's get to the window with Old Dominion outright over App State tomorrow afternoon at noon. Kentucky versus Tennessee. Tennessee is laying 17.5 at home. Total is 48.5 in this game. First of all, I'm going to take the under in this one. Both teams, defensively can do some things. I think that Tennessee defense is going to be hard for Kentucky to score a lot of points. I don't see them getting over maybe 13 points. I'm not sure that all of Tennessee's offensive woes corrected right now just because they're playing Kentucky. I don't think so. I don't think that they are. And in my preseason videos that I did pick Kentucky to actually knock off Tennessee in Neyland. Now, I deserve a mulligan. I can correct things when I'm incorrect. And it has nothing to do with Tennessee being a great team this year. Kentucky has just been very, very disappointing. They've had some youth issues there. They've had some injury issues. And quite frankly, Brock Vandagriff has not played up to the level that we thought he was going to be at. Starting running back got injured before the season. Chip Trainum, who was the transfer from Ohio State, I don't think he's even taken a snap yet. And this guy was supposed to be ready after just like a few weeks. He broke his hand. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there with that, but I'm not touching this number here. I think Kentucky does cover that big 17.5 point number though, and I think this game goes under that total of 48.5. Air Force at Army. Army is laying 22 at home. Army was 2-6 last year when they went to Air Force, who was a one-loss team. They actually knocked Air Force off, got the outright upset. and that's kind of started Jeff Monken's team on this ride that they're on right now. Currently sitting here undefeated, ranked in the top 25. Air Force knows the Army offense. They practice against it all the time. They're no stranger to this triple option spread type of attack. I look for Air Force to keep this game within 2 touchdowns here. I don't expect them to win. Army's just a little bit too dominant, and Air Force is still lacking in some key areas, but I think they keep it well inside this 22-point number. Duke on the road at Miami. Duke is catching 20.5 on the road. Duke is coming off of what turned out to be a disappointing ending to their game against SMU, where they actually were leading for much of that ball game and failed on a 2-point conversion late that would have won the game for them and gotten them the outright upset. It didn't happen. They're sitting here still at 5-2, though. A good season for Duke. They'll get bowl eligible with a win. I don't think they get to win here in this game. I think Miami's just got too much talent for that. But I do like Duke to keep this thing inside that 20.5 number. When was the last time you saw Miami actually blow anybody out? I mean, South Florida a month and a half ago. Give me Duke to cover this number. Stanford on the road at North Carolina State. Stanford is catching 9.5 at NC State. Look, I look for the freshman quarterback, Bailey, for NC State to be able to let his hair down a little bit and do some things against a pitiful offense here, or a pitiful defense, I should say, in this Stanford team. Give me NC State and those points. I think they win this game by double digits at home. Virginia Tech at Syracuse. Syracuse is laying 4 at home. It's kind of a revenge spot, right, for Syracuse from last year. Excuse me. They got blown out by Virginia Tech 38-10 last year in a weeknight game. Now they're at home in the Carrier Dome with home field advantage, laying 4 against a Hokie team that's beat up a little bit, running back questionable for this game. Still, though, I look at this one, I still want to lay the points with the underdog, Virginia Tech. Syracuse, a lot of mistakes in that game the other night at Pitt. Have they corrected all that? Because this is not the first time all year that we saw Kyle McCord play like crap for Syracuse. He played like crap in the game against Stanford, which happened to be like the only conference game so far that Stanford has won. Is he going to rebound here? Is he going to have a good game? I mean, what is there to... hold just a minute.
Hello there.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm fine. Apparently the toll...
You need a receipt?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Apparently, I guess the automated toll... I like the automated toll machine. It's kind of like the self-checkout, but apparently it ain't working today. The tolls here in South Carolina, by the way, are ridiculous. It's $2.25 to travel on this road. In Pennsylvania, to go across that bridge, it's a fucking $1. I mean, you'd think that it would be the opposite, wouldn't you? No, not so much. But I'm going to lay it with Virginia Tech here. The people talk like, well, we'll talk about Pittsburgh later on, and how Syracuse is kind of self-imploded. Maybe they're just not any good. Ole Miss on the road at Arkansas. Arkansas is a 7.5-point underdog. It's another trendy upset pick here that a lot of people are taking. I'm not buying it. I'm going to lay the points here with Ole Miss. This is a team that knows they can't afford to slip up. They're sitting here with 2 losses right now. Didn't play particularly well last week against Oklahoma, so they're going to have to rebound from that one. Arkansas surprisingly blew out Mississippi State. And I say surprisingly because Mississippi State had been hanging tough with some teams that are better than Arkansas. And then they just turned around and totally laid an egg here in this game. But I do look for Ole Miss to get a double-digit win here against Arkansas. Arkansas's running back, Jaquinda Jackson, is going to be out for this game. And I think they're going to have a tough time with a backup running back running against a stout Ole Miss front seven, one of the best in the country here. And Arkansas's defense, in terms of slowing down Jackson Dart and that Ole Miss, the rushing attack, Arkansas doesn't stop anybody defensively. So give me Ole Miss to cover here on the road and win that game. Maine at Oklahoma. Maine's catching 34.5. Are you a degenerate and you like to gamble on garbage? I would lay the points with Maine. At 34.5, I don't think Oklahoma can score that many points. Hell, I don't know if they can score half that many. Give it to the Maine Black Bears to cover 34.5 against Oklahoma. Pitiful. Ohio State is a 3-point favorite on the road in Happy Valley against Penn State. This is probably the biggest game of the day tomorrow. I'm rolling with Penn State here. I think James Franklin gets it done. There's a lot of questions in the health of his quarterback, Drew Aller. Is he going to play? Is he not? Is he going to have a brace on? I think he's probably going to play somewhat limited. But I just think that Penn State overall is just a tougher team than Ohio State. I think that makes up a little bit for the talent disadvantage that they're at. So, and this home field advantage here is going to be huge in this game. Give me Penn State for the first time since 2016 to knock off Ohio State and win this game outright tomorrow in Happy Valley. Illinois is a 3-point home underdog against Minnesota. Now that seems like kind of a weird line. But we look at some stuff. I think Illinois kind of got exposed a little bit against Oregon. I'm just not sold on this offense being very good. And Minnesota's quietly been plucking along, has been a decent team this year. I think they're going to be able to run the ball against Illinois, and I think they're actually going to get the win here. So give me them to cover that spread against Illinois. UNC, 2.5-point favorite on the road at Florida State. I mean, let me lay it with UNC. I mean, a very impressive win last week on the road at Virginia. And Florida State, what have they done? I mean, why do they keep getting these short lines against some of these teams when, all they've really done is get blown out? I mean, they can't catch the ball. They can't throw the ball. And they're just not very good at much of anything. They can't run the ball. Quarterback play has been horrible. It doesn't matter what quarterback they've had in there. Just an epic collapse. Of biblical proportions. I haven't seen anything like it. And y'all know how I get about people that just run shit into the ground, that say dumb sayings like give them their flowers day after day after day, and say rent free day after day after day. You hear these same phrases. Well, I'm sorry, I can't shy away from saying that Florida State's, this is the most epic collapse that I've ever seen. It's not even funny at this point. It's sad, really, really, really is. But give me Mac Brown here to cover the spread here. And UNC wins. Florida plus 15 on the road at Georgia, or in the cocktail party game with Georgia. I don't know where to go with this one. To be honest with you, if it were me, I would play like a first half under. In this game, because or even a Georgia team total first half under in this game, because Georgia's like number 78, I think the stat was that I heard in the country in terms of first half production this year. I mean, they just don't play real well in the first half of games. They make these adjustments and they come out in the second half and they do their thing. But if I had a gun to my head, I would take Georgia to cover the spread because they've covered. I think it's like Florida's like 0-12 or something as a double-digit underdog against the spread against Georgia in this series of late. And I think the favorites won and covered like the past 7 times. It's a trend, and I know that trends don't always work out, but I mean, it's worked out 7 times in a row, hasn't it? I mean, you know, I'm getting a lot of, well, Billy Napier's going to be coaching for his job. Well, he's going to be coaching for his job because he's not good. He's not good. And he has a terrible record against really good teams. And he's not been competitive with them. That's why he's about to get fired, people. So, I don't think that he's going to do anything here to make us think that maybe we shouldn't fire him. I just don't. I mean, I would stay away from it because it's still, there is still something hanging in the balance there. But I'd play Georgia first half team total under if I wanted to make a play on that game. But I'd lean Georgia. Houston plus 13 at home against K-State. I'm actually going to lay that with the homestanding Houston Cougars, a team who plays ugly football and can muddy a game up somewhat. I think Kansas State might come out with, not the greatest of efforts after the kind of down to the wire game in the Sunflower State showdown against Kansas, which they won 29-27 last weekend. So going ahead, lay them points with Houston there. Texas Tech minus 13.5 on the road against Iowa State. Is Iowa State the least talked about undefeated team? I think they are. I mean, and if you look at it, a lot of their wins, it just hadn't been real impressive. And Texas Tech is a team we know can put some points up on the board. They're sitting here at 4-3. Bowl eligibility kind of hanging in the wings for them too. Kind of need a good showdown or a good matchup. I can't talk. A good showing here against Iowa State. And despite the fact that Kansas has a worse record than Texas Tech, I still think that Iowa State may be looking ahead to next week's game against Kansas. So going ahead and give me them Texas Tech Red Raiders here to keep this game within that 13.5 point margin against the Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State just finds ways to win, and they don't always win in impressive fashion. And sometimes they just win in dadgum downright ugly fashion. But they keep getting it done. Oregon minus 14.5 on the road against Michigan. Michigan's another one that's really falling apart at the seams too. They have a quarterback issue. The issue is that none of them are any good. I'm going to go on ahead and lay those points here with Oregon in this one. I think they steamroll Michigan. Michigan's having an epically bad season as well. And Oregon has looked every bit the part. I mean, do you remember when they started out slow? A lot of people don't. They don't really talk about it. Why? Because they've been murdering everybody since then. Going ahead and give me Oregon. That 14.5 is not nearly enough. I think they may double that up. They may be drinking that free double up and eating that Wolverine stew. Indiana minus 7.5 at Michigan State. Yeah, look, I mean, the popular thing is to keep fading Indiana until they finally don't cover a spread, and eventually it's going to happen. But with me, and I would stay off this game anyway, but just for me, I mean, I would continue to play Indiana until they give you a reason not to. And they've been an absolute hammer. Michigan State's coming off of a depressing outing against Michigan. They lost to Michigan. Yeah. UCLA at Nebraska. Nebraska laying 7 at home. UCLA is just god-awful. And I think that Nebraska picks themselves up from that disappointing loss, last-minute kind of loss to Ohio State last week, in which they should have won that ball game. think they dust themselves off, and I think they just beat the hell out of UCLA at home. Give me Nebraska to cover that 7-point spread easily. I think Matt Rule's the kind of coach who's not going to let his team get down and give a less than effort and end up potentially losing losing the same game 2 weeks in a row. So Arizona State minus 4.5 on the road at Oklahoma State. Could you believe that Oklahoma State is actually catching points against Arizona State at home? When we talked about them in the preseason, you certainly wouldn't. But Oklahoma State, they're sitting here at 3-5. Their bowl eligibility kind of depends on this game. They really need this one, given their schedule down the stretch. There's some teams on there that they could beat, but they're going to need this win here against Kenny Dillingham's Arizona State bunch that comes in at 5-2. I think they're a little overinflated myself. I think Oklahoma State actually pulls the upset here. I'm going to take the Pokes outright at home in Stillwater to get that win against the Sun Devils. Louisville, 10.5 point underdog on the road against the Clemson Taters. You know how much I hate Clemson. I really want to pick against them, but you gotta pick with your brain when you're doing these things. And for me, with Louisville, I've seen some slow starts. I've seen a team that doesn't stop anybody. And I've seen a team with an offensive-minded head coach that puts some points up on the board. So I think we could potentially see all of that here in this game against Clemson. The Taters have been jumping out in front of teams 28-0. And I know it's NC State, it's App State, it's Stanford, it's shitburgers like that. This team they really got the luck of the draw with the schedule. They absolutely did. But the whole conference is full of them. I mean, it's full of teams that are just of that level. They gave up 31 points to Virginia. That's a team that just didn't go away and wasn't going to let them put them away without a fight. The Tater fans will tell you, well, because all of our second and third stringers was in. Because, in some of these games, you're going to need some of these second and third stringers to step up and be able to play and kind of replicate what your first string is doing. We can't have that massive of a drop-off there. And right there is where we may, see, that, Dabo not using the transfer portal. That's one of the places where it hurts. I'm still convinced that eventually he's going to end up looking like a boob for not using the damn portal. The talk has kind of gone away because Clemson's been steamrolling these shitburgers by 4 or 5 touchdowns every week. But the issue is still there. It's just under the surface right now. It's just been swept under the rug for right now. That said, I still think they cover the number here, this 10.5. I don't trust Louisville. I think they're too loose. I think they're leaky on defense, and I don't trust them here. I think this can be one of those games where you could potentially hear the annoying fight song like 3 times in the first quarter with Clemson scoring touchdowns. So give me the Taters and all those points. I think they do cover this game against Louisville. Gamecocks versus Texas A&M. South Carolina's a 3-point underdog right now. It was 2.5. It's now moved to 3 versus Texas A&M. There's varied opinions out there. You've got some people that are on South Carolina to upset A&M here. That they think this is a letdown spot for A&M. I think Mike Elko's another solid coach that's not going to let his team get in that type of mindset. My podcast partner, Rob Sanders, thinks A&M might win by double digits, and they well could. I don't think that's going to happen. I think South Carolina is probably going to lose another disappointing one. If they do, give it to me by more than 3 points, though. There's just been some silly comments in the comment section all week. I mean, people tell me Taco is going to win 30-17 over A&M. But you can't tell me why. I mean, why? What have we done? What have we done in our bye week to ensure that happens? I just don't see it, guys. I don't see it. This is a show me game. You know, the show me state of Missouri. This is a show me game. Show me that your offense is improved. Show me that Dowell Loggins is not horrendous at calling ball plays. Until you do that, I can't pick you, and I can't back the Gamecocks, the team that I love, in a matchup of this magnitude against a team like this. So give me Texas A&M to cover that. I already talked about it too. I did a video a couple of days ago. You can click back on the videos a couple back and kind of look at that one if you want to. Wisconsin is a 2.5-point underdog on the road at Iowa. I'm going to take Iowa just by virtue of them being at home. I have nothing on this game. USC -2 on the road at Washington. I think USC is just fundamentally a better football team than Washington is. So give me Lincoln Riley's team there. Both of these teams are 4-4 on the year. Washington with a massive drop-off from last year. And USC, record-wise, has been underwhelming versus what we thought they were going to be, but I think they're still a better football team in this matchup. TCU, a 3-point underdog against Baylor. Baylor's looked a lot better lately. And TCU's just kind of, I don't know, they're just kind of hanging out there. They're like 5-3 right now. Got bowl eligibility riding here. I might roll with the underdog TCU squad. But I really don't have anything on that game either. Last one on the docket, Pitt on the road at SMU. Pitt is a 7-point underdog at SMU. I think Pitt covers this game. I think they could well win it. I've heard talk that Pitt is not as good as their record indicates, that their win. I have people saying their win over Syracuse was fraudulent. And that really? Because Syracuse threw 3 pick sixes, that's fraudulent. To me, Pitt's defense was opportunistic. They took advantage of it. And they still won that game. Was it 42-13, I think? Well, I mean, they didn't really do anything else other than take back some pick sixes. Well, they didn't have to. I mean, they were already up 21-0 before you could even, crack a cold beer open and sit down. So, I mean, really, what else did they need to do? I mean, what did they need to do to prove to you guys that they were better than Syracuse? And they've been better than a lot of the teams they faced. I'm not buying SMU. And it's not that I think SMU is no good. I just think Pitt's a really good football team. Impressed with Pat Narduzzi as a head coach. And I trust him a little bit more than I do Rhett Lashley. Nothing against Rhett Lashley, but Narduzzi's been around for a while. I trust him in this situation in a big game here. He's been there before. Pitt has won the ACC championship before when Clemson was down a couple of years ago. So I think they potentially strike the upset here, but I do like Pitt and the points on the road in the Gerald J. Ford Stadium in Dallas, Texas, against those Mustangs tomorrow night. There's no 10 p.m. games, no real late games tomorrow night. A lot of people are talking about that and discussing that it's crazy, like we're not having any standalone games there. Probably, I'm thinking it has something to do with the daylight savings time. That's the only explanation that I can get for that one. I mean, it makes sense. Daylight savings time does change. We go back to standard time on Saturday night / Sunday morning. So that could be the dealio right there. Anyway, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think. There's a Friday night game tonight, Georgia State and UConn. UConn gets bowl eligible with a win. I think they're the better team here. going ahead and give me UConn to cover against Georgia State. By the way, and that's a long trip too for Georgia State. On a short week off a loss, yeah, I don't trust them there. By the way, if you want to see some good coach interviews, some of these coaches don't get enough attention just because of who they coach, and the teams they coach don't get a lot of limelight there from the media. But sorry guys, I'm stretching out. That was a long trip. Oh my gosh, I got a little short video I'm gonna put up later on too. Y'all gotta help me identify this animal. I don't know if it was a dog or a coyote, or it may have actually been a wolf, but mercy. It was something to behold. Go back and watch the Jim Mora Jr. interview after, his little presser after Wake Forest beat UConn. I mean, my man was cursing, dropping F-bombs and everything there about, he's like, well, it's just shitty officiating. That's what it is, because we're an independent playing a damn ACC team with ACC refs. I'm like, what? People, I mean, it's kind of like the way that people talk about the SEC, and the SEC bias. He's talking about ACC and ACC bias. Kind of crazy, kind of nuts. I enjoyed it. Anyway, go check that out. Anyway, guys, I will see you later on. Appreciate it. There'll be a live stream tomorrow night, guys, about 7:15. We're going to crank it up. Gamecocks versus A&M. Battle for the Bonham Trophy. Let's see if South Carolina can strike an upset at home against the pretty impressive Texas A&M Aggies. We'll see y'all later on. Appreciate you. Peace. I'm out of here. Go Gamecocks.